with us. Thank you very much for following us. Today, another very interesting topic to share with all our audience, virtual reality. Where are we heading? What is the status of virtual reality right now? And we are right now our very special guest. His name is Frank Azor, and he is the Vice President and General Manager for Alienware and Dell XPS. Frank, thank you very much for being with our followers.
Yeah, thank you for having me, absolutely.
Frank, I had the opportunity to be at the Google House a few days ago, and they were showing me a little bit of new technology with VR. And well, I was kind of amazed because I was looking how the music industry, for example, the Gorillaz rock band, they launched their new album in virtual reality. So I would like to know, from your point of view, which the status of right now, in which point are we right now in terms of virtual reality?
We're basically in day one of virtual reality. I mean, arguably we're in year one, really. I mean, the first virtual reality headsets started shipping to the masses around this time last year. If you think about how long it's taken personal computers to get to the point where we're at right now, where we basically have one in our pockets and we use them all day long with us everywhere we go, which is our smartphone, it took over 30 years for us to get to this point. But look how far we've come, right? So virtual reality is still very much in its infancy. We still have very big, bulky, expensive headsets like the HTC Vive and the Oculus that provide an incredible experience. And then we have less expensive, a little bit lower quality, less immersive headsets like the Google Daydream and the Samsung Gear VR and stuff. But again, I just tell people, it's day one. Be patient, right? The technology is going to continue to evolve. It's going to continue to get better. And if you look at the original computers of 30, 40 years ago to where we are today and put a little bit of imagination into where we're going to be with virtual reality, the future is really exciting. And it's not going to take 30, 40 years to get there. It's going to accelerate. The technology is advancing at a much more rapid pace. We're going to get there in the next 5 to 10 years.
So let's go to the next 5 to 10 years. How do you see the future of virtual reality in the next 5 years?
Well, at Dell and Alienware, we've been invested in virtual reality really since the beginning. We had Oculus with us on stage at CES last year at the big launch of their headset, and we announced our partnership. We've been launch partners with HTC, with the Vive as well. We believe it's going to be as disruptive to the way in which we work and the way in which we live our lives as the internet has been to the way in which we do those things over the last 20 years.
But does that mean that everybody's going to be with these goggles walking in the street?
You have to think of it a little bit differently. You don't see people with laptops walking in the street necessarily yet, right?
But you see them with the phone walking in the street, and more terrible, driving.
Well, yeah, exactly. So you got to think a little bit about how the form factor is going to change. But for the first few years, we're going to see virtual reality as we know it today get better and better and better. And we'll use virtual reality when we want to be 100% immersed in experiences like maybe playing video games, watching a movie, and being immersed in those types of experiences. What will then come very rapidly thereafter is augmented reality. And augmented reality will actually begin to serve more like how we use our phones today. You won't initially use it as a fully immersive experience like VR, just because of the inherent technological differences that are going to exist between the two different solutions. Initially, what it'll serve as an augmentation solution. So you really will have people walking around with a headset on that'll look very elegant. It'll look almost like a pair of glasses, maybe with a little bit more bulk. And the world around them is going to be fed and augmented, not too differently than how we do it with our phones today. You know, today we may leave this conversation and I may check your LinkedIn profile, your Facebook profile, and what we're doing is we're doing a very kind of passive exchange between the real world and a virtual world on my smartphone. But what augmented reality will do is it will create a persistent virtual world experience overlaid into the real world. So the two worlds are going to go from living in these completely different silos to merging into one. And the experiences are going to be really fascinating. The opportunities are fascinating. Like we could be here right now, and I can be looking at you with my augmented reality glasses, and I can see what the latest Facebook profile posts are that you put on there, your latest LinkedIn posts, when your birthday is, whatever else you decided, your Twitter post, whatever you decided to share. I can see that you particularly like because you decided to share it with me. and we're in this establishment right here. You like lattes?
That is happening right. That is happening right now,
Well, no, I don't have
or
my glasses.
or where we're heading the next
This
5
is
years.
the next. This is what augmented reality will begin to introduce to us, and then what will happen after that is the two will merge. Virtual reality and augmented reality will merge in the sense that, very similarly to how you can now watch a full-length movie on your smartphone, which was originally never really the kind of idea of it. You'll see something similar where the technologies will get to the point where augmented reality can completely immerse you like virtual reality can, and vice versa. And then it'll be a factor of decision, not a factor what you decide to do when, not a factor of what the technology can enable you to do, like will be in the initial years.
When we saw augmented reality, we saw something that caught a lot of the attention in the gaming world, and this was Pokemon, the Pokemon On. And now we see that this virtual reality can also work for another kind of more serious projects. What will be your view of how we can use virtual reality for humankind and to make good for the world?
The opportunities are endless. I like to tell people that whatever opportunity we've capitalized on as a human race in the real world, it is an opportunity for us to take advantage of in the virtual world. Clothing, for example, is going to be an opportunity. I mean, the way in which, if you fast forward 10, 20, 30 years, right, the way I could see what you're wearing versus what you're actually wearing, it will be possible for it to be different through an augmented reality experience.
How will be that difference?
Well, because if you believe that the augmentation is going to be, as realistic as what we see today in the real world, and the technologies that are developing have the potential to be able to actually do that, you could be wearing all white, yet when I put on my augmented reality glasses, I could see you in this, blue suit, for example. And it can look that realistic and it can map correctly to your body. That won't be possible day one, but we didn't think what we've accomplished with PCs and smartphones today were possible 30 years ago. And again, look how far we've come. Other use cases could be that we're already seeing emerge is construction, right? I mean, the way in which you envision your real estate, whether commercial or consumer today, is you kind of have to use a lot of your imagination, right? You look at flat sheets of paper, and then you imagine the perspectives and the perceptions and all these things of what it's going to be like when you walk into your building, whether it be a home or a huge, massive global arena. Well, now with virtual reality today, you can actually experience what that real estate is going to look like. You can feel the presence of the walls of walking through the hallways. You can see the finishes, the details. Do you like the height of that lamp as it's hanging down, or the height of those baseboards as you're walking by? The counter height in the kitchen. You can feel it, and then you can make automatic adjustments on the fly. And then take it to one step further, we're already seeing people produce content in virtual reality. So imagine not just walking into this building and having critiques around these different elements, but actually being able to say, counter height, I want it 4 inches higher, and you raise it higher. And that translates over into the blueprints before they begin doing the construction. So you don't have to do modeling for these things anymore. You don't have to create a small model. You don't have to create a big model. You can just put the glasses on and fully experience it. And there are large large commercial companies that do large-scale projects that are already taking this technology and offering it to their customers because it's cutting edge and it gives them a real material benefit. I was actually recently at a hotel, and they're going to renovate the hotel. And they were doing a demonstration, I guess, for the investors or the owners of the hotel, and they gave them a Samsung Gear VR, and they put it over their head, and they were looking at the hotel through the Gear VR and seeing all the augmentation, all the new renovations that they're going to do before they even did them.
So they can decide, you know what, I don't like it, change it?
Yeah, I don't like the color combination, I don't like this, I don't like that. I mean, look, we design computers, right? So we run into this issue when we're designing our computers as well. There's never been a model of a PC on a piece of paper that we haven't said looks amazing. But then sometimes when you build the actual model, the physical model, things are different. The perspectives are different, the angles are different. And that's why we build those very, very expensive models that we do. And we build hundreds of them before we ever get to tooling our product and mass producing it. This can help significantly reduce that development time and the cost by, if the fidelity and the quality, when the fidelity and quality of virtual reality and augmented reality get as good as they will eventually, we'll be able to skip a lot of that laborious process and go closer from concept to mass production. Like other technology, like PCs have already helped us do, like 3D printers have already helped us do. This will be the next major step forward in shortening that.
We have seen also that actually in the media world, virtual reality, they're producing content,
Yes.
actually documentaries about Syria, so the audience can actually live in a virtual sense the war.
Yeah.
In the industry, in the music industry also, about this project that I told you already. Which other kind of industries do you think that virtual reality will be a break changer?
I think every industry is poised for change. PCs and the internet have changed the way in which we communicate with one another. They've changed the way in which we learn from one another, and they've changed the way in which we educate one another. I'm sorry, entertain one another. Communicate, entertain, and educate. Everything has been different as a result of the internet, in my opinion, over the last 20, 30 years, right? And I think virtual reality is going to do, and augmented reality are going to do exactly the same thing. I think the way in which we communicate with one another, this interview will be possible with you being halfway around the world, and it'll be just as immersive as it is right now with us. Through augmented reality or virtual reality, I will feel like you're standing right in front of me. You will feel the presence of me moving in and moving out. We will see this environment. We can put ourselves in basically any virtual environment that we want, and that will completely change the game of accessibility for everybody, of communications, of interactivity, the way in which we entertain as well. Like to your point about the documentaries around the war, you watch a documentary on something or you watch a movie on a flat screen and you're entertained, and sometimes you can feel yourself like really into the movie, right? And then something happens and distracts you, like someone walks by or something, and it kind of pulls you out a little bit, and you kind of get back into it, and people are talking and you ignore them because you're so in depth into the movie. But that takes time. It's like reading a book. Reading a book, sometimes it takes a good 5-10 minutes or pages before you're really into the book. TV shortens that time a little bit. Well, VR puts you in it in a second. There's no transition period to get into the experience. It's immersive immediately. And that's going to give people, artists especially, an opportunity to tell their stories in more compelling ways than they've ever had accessible to them before. I mean, we started with writing, and that worked very effectively. Then we moved into audio, and that was good. And then movies. And each one of these technology transitions has been all in the vein of trying to get us more immersed and keeping us more immersed, and going from it being something that you watched and you remember watching, which is what we do today. I remember reading a book. I remember listening to a song. I remember watching something on TV. What virtual reality and augmented reality are going to do is you're going to remember experiencing it. Not watching it, not listening to it, not reading it. You're going to remember the experience itself, because that's what we're bringing you, is an experience, not something that you're watching or reading or listening to.
Mark Zuckerberg said a few days ago when he was doing the launching of his version of augmented reality and virtual reality for Facebook platforms, that actually virtual reality and augmented reality is actually literally the biggest new thing in the computing world. Do you agree with him?
Absolutely agree. At Dell and at Alienware, that's why we've been invested since the beginning in the virtual reality and augmented reality revolution. Like I said, we've been partnered with Oculus and HTC. We're partnered with Steam on their Steam VR content platform, and obviously Oculus with their content platform as well. We actually announced with Dell that we're going to build a virtual reality head-mounted display in partnership with Microsoft as well. They're creating a premium VR solution and platform. We think that, like I said, in the future, the way in which the internet has disrupted just about everything in our lives, and the way we work and the way in which we live our lives, that virtual reality and augmented reality are going to stand to do the same exact thing. So the future of computing is absolutely going to consist of a large element of these two technologies.
We want to know a little bit about your personal story. How Frank Azor, because you seem young, how you came up, how you get where you are right now in this multi-billion-dollar industry of virtual reality and Dell.
Oh, well, how much time do you have? It's a long story. I'll keep it short, though. So in 1998, I joined a couple crazy guys starting a computer gaming company called Alienware. And the four of us just, found a niche in people who were like us that loved playing video games, but really couldn't find a computer that was optimized and designed to allow us to be able to do that. And in speaking to friends and family, we found that there were a lot of people out there that were in a similar situation as us. So we had no idea that not only our business would grow this big, but that the industry would grow to the level that it is. So we were very fortunate to get in at a good time. Even though the PC industry was going through a really big kind of revolution in that a lot of the smaller companies were disappearing and the larger OEMs were really the ones thriving, and at the same time we had the dot-com crash and all of those things occurred just about the same time that we had just recently opened the business. We found that this niche of PC gamers were hungry for a solution that catered to them that nobody else was catering them to, or catering to them with. And we've been very successful in growing as gaming has been growing. You know, gaming, today PC gaming is a huge industry. You know, it's larger than any other entertainment industry that's out there. And it's even eclipsed console gaming in its success. For a long time, everybody was all about console, 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 and now it's largely a fair share between console and PC. We've seen things like esports emerge to the point where it's on a path to becoming an Olympic sport. So yesterday there was news of the Asian Games bringing esports in as a medaled sport in the future, which is one of the steps before the Olympic Committee would consider such a sport.
You're exercising your brain.
Absolutely, and it's a highly competitive sport based on talent, skill, practice, all these things. So I absolutely believe it should be considered as a sport in the Olympics. But we've seen that grow to the point where it's at. We've seen movies being made based on games. We're seeing things that are way beyond our wildest dreams. And our success has largely been thanks to a lot of hard work, as you hear from a lot of people, but our relentless focus on customers. You know, customers have the direct ability to access me and my team if they ever need to. We broadcast over 24 hours a week through alienware.tv.com, and all of our online personalities have direct access through vehicles like Twitch, through vehicles like Twitter, and through vehicles like Facebook. We have active conversations with our customers on all of those social media outlets. I'm readily accessible at Azor Frank, and I get a lot of customer conversations that I'm always managing on Twitter through my Twitter login. We've always had a very customer-centric, customer-first mentality. Our motto is actually build it as if it were your own, and it has been since the first day of the company, because we were founded by this very same customer that we're trying to target. We are gamers that built PCs for ourselves and our friends, and that's who started the business, really. That's what inspired us and created the business. So we're very passionate about what we do. We absolutely love what it is that we do.
Well, in the Millennial Way show, that's one of our cores, to get to those millennials, to these new generations with these talented, passionate people, success people that can send this message of advice, tip of advice for this new generation, in this case, the young generation of creators, innovators, developers, and that people that is using virtual reality or augmented reality. What would be your best tip of advice?
You know, the things we look for in people before we bring them into the Alienware family are primarily two things. First thing is passion, because that's what's fueled our success in our business over the years. We didn't know anything about computers, about business, about, quite honestly, anything. I was in high school when we started this thing, and the two other founders, Nelson, Alex, they came out of the medical industry and IT, barely in IT. They had very little to no IT background. But what fueled our success was our passion. So what we look for in people is, number one, are they passionate about this? Why do they want to work with us and for us? Is it for the right reasons or is it for the wrong reasons? What are their ideas? What's their vision for how they would do things differently? And that's the most important thing, honestly. The second thing is willingness to learn. In the tech sector especially, nothing stays the same for very long at all. You know, things used to change every 5 years, then every year. Today, it seems like things are changing almost every week in our industry. And if you can't adapt and learn and, you know, shift like a chameleon to the different types of things that are coming at you from all these different angles and be responsive and decisive, you won't survive, not only at Alienware, but honestly in the entire industry. I mean, if you just look at the amount of companies that have come up and were relevant 10, 20 years ago in the internet space or the PC space that don't even exist today. And there's very few that have survived and thrived as long as Alienware has, which is over 20 years now. We celebrated our 20th anniversary last year. Dell's over 30 years old. 20th, yes.
Wow.
And Dell's over 30 years old. Think about how many other PC companies, right, were before Dell, during Dell, after Dell that don't even exist today. There's really only two US-based large-scale OEM PC companies, HP and Dell. The rest are based in Taiwan or China, right? And if you think about 20, 30 years ago, there were so many you couldn't even count. I remember getting Computer Shopper magazines that were this thick, and you were massive, and everybody had a computer company back then. And really, when you look back at which were the ones that survived and thrived, it's the ones that have been able to adapt, the ones that have been able to learn, and make decisions and execute on them very, very quickly. Those are the two things we look for in folks. That's kind of the culture and the DNA of Alienware, but not just Alienware, but also a lot of Dell. Experience can be taught, but you can't teach those two things.
Frank, last one more question. Why do you think this is important to continue doing this kind of events, this kind of summits to gather the best brains in their fields?
It's hard when you're in a highly competitive business, and most of us that are here are in such a business, to get outside of your own business and listen to outside perspectives and have conversations with people that are in different industries and different fields, because you tend to stay within your industry. I tend to speak to a lot of our technology partners, a lot of our customers, our review, but it's not often that I get to meet with an energy company or a government official, because it's not something that I'm very focused on day to day in order to grow and drive my business in the status that it's in right now. So coming to events like this, you get to meet people of all different types. You get to understand the problems that they're dealing with. And a lot of times you've discovered that we're dealing with a lot of the similar problems and very similar opportunities. And that serves as an opportunity to meet, to collaborate, to help solve each other's problems, to help work together, and quite honestly, to get business done in different ways. A lot of disruptive ideas come out of forums like this, where you're putting people that would never otherwise even think about talking to each other or meeting each other, but you find a common ground in a discussion and you say, wow, there's something here, there's chemistry, let's go follow up. And I mean, just in the day that I've been here, I've met a huge number of fascinating people that I didn't even know existed, and they didn't even know I existed. And we've already said to ourselves, we need to trade information, and we need to take this little brief 10, 20, 30-minute conversation that we just had to the next level. And it would never otherwise have happened if we hadn't been here today.
Frank, we really appreciate your time. It was a pleasure and an honor to have the opportunity to share your view with all our followers in the Millennial Way Show.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Frank Azor, one of the top guys from Dell, here sharing all his thoughts with all of you. This is the Millennial Way Show, empowering the new generation. Thank you very much, Frank.